Hello, everyone. Thanks for dropping in. You have reached Healing Body, Mind, and Soul. I'm your host, Ariel Asher, and today I have the good fortune to be here with my new friend, Mary Beauchamp. Now, Mary happens to be a registered nurse and a licensed nutritionist, and she's a ketogenic diet coach. And I was so intrigued by the work that she did. I wanted to have her come on today because I think that everybody, whether they're trying to lose weight or whether they just want to be optimal in the performance in their body, needs to know a little bit about nutrition. And Mary is the one to find out from. So without further ado, I'd like to say hello to Mary Beauchamp.
Hello, and for having me today. I'm really honored to be here. Yeah.
It's wonderful to have you here. Now, Mary, I'm sure that the listeners are on the edge of their seat. It's that time of year, when everybody is like, okay, I did my New Year's resolution and now it's not really working out. What am I doing wrong? I bet you get this all the time. What is the number one thing that clients come to you about, Mary?
Well, I would say that there's a process that happens naturally in the body that we're wired for. We're hardwired for it. And it's called a state of ketosis. And the ketogenic diet's been popularized lately in the media, but I've been working with it for about 25 years. And originally it was used for seizure patients to help them control seizures who were non-responsive to medication. But what science has proven in the last decades is that really this can be used for a number of reasons and for a number of health conditions, mainly because what it does is it shifts your metabolism when you eat a ketogenic diet. And I'll tell you a little bit about what that looks like in a minute. It shifts your metabolism to a different fuel source. So most people are running on carbohydrates or sugars, we could say, because all carbohydrates turn to sugar in the blood. And what that does is it triggers insulin, and insulin causes the body to store fat. So a lot of the patients that I work with now are people that are trying to reverse obesity or just want to lose 15, 20 pounds really quickly, or maybe they have diabetes or heart disease or cancer. All of these are conditions that are as the result of glucose dysregulation in the body. And also doctors are now calling Alzheimer's type 3 diabetes. So it's really good for that too, because we know that degenerative brain conditions are the result also of this chronic state of running our bodies on carbohydrates. So yeah, I don't know if that answers all of your question, but I work with a wide variety of people who have a wide variety of problems and health challenges. Because this really targets sort of the root cause of why we see some of the chronic diseases that we have. Many of the chronic diseases are rooted in the same problem. So I like to address the root cause.
Yeah. How did we get to this place, Mary, where everybody's body runs on carbohydrates? Is that even our natural state?
Well, it's not our natural state. We're hunters and gatherers by our evolutionary process. And in that, we would have states of, periods of time where we would be feasting, where we would be eating maybe the berries that were ripe, or we found a honeycomb in the tree or whatever sort of carbs were available, but they were not readily available. They were very seasonal. We ate them, they ran out, we would move on. We were migratory, we were a lot more active. And mostly what we did was hunt, right? Mm-hmm. So the plants that we found were usually ones we would happen upon that were seasonally ripe, or we would have to find things to eat when we were starving because we had no animals to eat. So we were hunters and then first and gatherers second. And when we would gather, we would occasionally eat some carbs, but it was very seasonal and sporadic. And it wasn't every day, 3 times a day. So we've been taught that carbs are good for us. This is sort of what the food pyramid is all based on. And what we're realizing is that that was kind of a mistake, and that our bodies are suffering because of it. So we really have to rethink our rewire our belief system, you could say, around food, because we've all been sort of, I guess, brainwashed, for lack of a better word, that we should be eating a
I
lot
think that's a nice way to put it.
and even grains and bread and rice and, seeds and nuts and, and then not to mention the processed foods. So part of the problem is that we eat a lot of processed foods now that are loaded with processed sugars and all that kind of stuff. So we veered way off the baseline, which was hunters and gatherers eating mostly, animals that are ruminant, roaming, ranging animals. So
Yeah.
kind of where we went wrong. And
Right. While you were talking, and you mentioned that insulin, it clicked in with me that diabetes and would do well with the ketogenic diet. Now, I'm not schooled in this. I'm not an expert. That's why I have you, the expert. But am I on the right track there? That this would be something that somebody with diabetes would benefit from? Oh, yeah.
absolutely, it's being used by millions and millions of people to reverse diabetes and help people get off of their insulin and other medications. So absolutely, 100%, it reverses prediabetes, diabetes, type 1 diabetes, that is. And yeah, a lot of, and also help, really is very, very effective at weight loss. Because again, when you shift your metabolism to burning fat, you then have access to your own body fat stores as a fuel source. Where if you're eating carbohydrates, even a couple times a day,
Yeah.
not to mention 3 times or more that most people are eating them, eventually your glucose stores will run out in your blood, your liver, your muscles. And then at that point, that's when your metabolism says, I need to shift over and find a different fuel source. And that's when it starts to burn your own body fat for fuel. And that's when you can lose weight effortlessly, I like to say. And you can even burn fat while you're sleeping, and you actually let your metabolism do the hard work for you. So you don't have to spend hours running on treadmills and going to the gym and suffering through the horrid weight loss process that so many people really struggle with.
How did you get passionate about doing this and serving people by educating them in this area?
Well, when I was in nursing school, I was pretty appalled at the diets that I was seeing people eating in the hospital. And I sort of lost, I don't know, respect or faith in the medical system to understand the science of nutrition. I grew up on a horse ranch where we bred horses. And so I was always very, even from the time I was 2, like I knew that the pregnant mares needed special food and they needed grain and they needed, all their supplements. And so I just always grew up knowing that nutrition was important. And the horses who didn't get the special feed, they were more susceptible to, their babies having problems and being sick. And so it just always was part of me growing up. And so when I got to nursing school and I saw what people were fed in hospitals, I was super appalled by that. And I just realized that either doctors don't know that nutrition matters, because clearly if they did, they wouldn't be feeding their patients this food, or I don't know. I just kind of made up that maybe they didn't really know the difference. And so I really dove in, and just at that point, I told myself, I'm never going to work in a hospital. I cannot possibly endorse this type of diet plan for humans. And so, you're eating the sweetened yogurts and the, carnation sort of milk, or the Ensure, and all these it's basically processed food, as a way to regain your health. And so I just vowed that I was never going to work in a hospital. And so when I got out of nursing school, I got a job at a clinic, an obesity and diabetes treatment center in Sacramento. That was my first job out of high school. And at the time, the medical director was Dr. Stephen Finney, who, if anybody wants more information about the ketogenic diet, he's really one of the pioneers in this area in the research. So I worked with him at his research clinic, and we saw hundreds of very obese patients that were diabetic, that basically the medical community had given up on and said, there's nothing else we can do for you. And they were very unhealthy. And we took them in and helped them lose weight and get off their meds and really revive their health. And so I became a big believer in this low carb diet then, which was 25 years ago. And then I raised my 4 kids and kind of kept always with it, and really just learning more and more about it. And then I kind of launched my own private coaching practice. And so now I work with people that are diabetic, overweight, and mostly cancer patients, I would say is the focus. But I also do just individual coaching for anybody who may just want to get keto adapted, we call it, because this is a very good way to detoxify your body and to rejuvenate your immune system and to reduce inflammation. So it just has far-reaching benefits because, like I said, it's hardwired into our DNA. Our body knows how to do it, and we actually thrive on it. So our bodies were developed and evolved with a feast and famine cycle. And so this allows the body to have the benefits of famine without starving, right? So
the benefits of famine is a very
it's the roundabout way of health benefits of it. What's that? What was that?
The benefits of famine is just a funny phrase. I enjoyed that. Mary, this is interesting.
Fasting. I mean, you get the benefits of fasting while you're still eating. So your biochemistry is acting as if you're fasting, and all those amazing benefits that come from fasting without you actually having to feel hungry. So that's sort of the real fringe benefit of understanding the ketogenic diet.
I love what you said about it being such a wonderful way to detox the body. And could you speak for a moment on how the ketogenic diet would serve anybody that is detoxing, or even the cancer? That piqued my interest too. I would love to hear a little bit about that.
Okay, yeah, that's so cancer cells need fuel, and their favorite fuel is sugar. So people that have very aggressive cancer, or even any types of cancer, but the ketogenic diet has been shown in many research studies to reduce cancer tumor growth in particularly very aggressive inoperable brain tumors, which there really is nothing you can do if the current medical treatments would be radiation, chemotherapy, and surgery. And oftentimes that's not an option for brain tumors. So there's a lot of research done on ketogenic diets in brain cancers, but also we're seeing the far-reaching benefits just in other cancers as well, because again, you're starving the cancer cells, you're removing their fuel source. And so they come into a weakened state. And then, so people that are even going to choose maybe to not do traditional medical treatments are seeing huge benefits in the reduction of tumor cell growth. And just because they're not fueling the cancer anymore. So what we do with a PET scan in modern, science and medicine is to test to see where the cancer has gone. Like if it is spreading, they do what's called a PET scan to see where it's moving to. And what that shows you is what you do when you do a PET scan is you actually drink glucose, and then it's radioactive. So it shows up on a scan. And so because it shows where the cancer tumors are, because that's where the concentrations of sugar is, because that's what cancer cells love. So when we eat sugar, we're fueling and feeding cancer cells. And that's really something that I don't think a lot of people know. But when you remove their fuel source, they weaken, and then they're more susceptible to the chemotherapies, and they're more susceptible to the other medical treatments, because the cells become more vulnerable to death. And that's really what you want when you try to target, cancer growth. So there's a really great book called The Metabolic Approach to Cancer. And it's written by Nasha Winters.
Wow.
And anyway, if anybody wants more information about that, it's a fantastic book. And there's all sorts of books written about this, but the metabolic approach to cancer is an incredible book. And she goes into that, but also Dr. Seyfried, there's just endless names of doctors I could throw out there. But if you go to my website, ketogenicdietcoach.com, you'll find a lot more about this. And So yeah, it's being used more and more and more because the science is just abundant in how well this works. Yeah.
Wow. Mary, you are a vast resource of knowledge. I love it. This is such an exciting conversation. Um, so how long have you been serving people this way? You look like a very young woman, so it can't be too long, right?
Well, I graduated from college in 1993. So it's been almost 30 years.
And
Yeah.
I really like that you attribute some of your natural inclination towards these things to your farm upbringing. I think that's great because probably being so close to nature, you got to know how nature works,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
I think some humans are desensitized to nature because they've never seen it, or we have only a patch of grass or maybe a house plant
Right.
around. So we get disconnected from how things work in
Yes.
that area. I
Absolutely.
You've absolutely opened
And
my.
you had also asked about
Oh, go ahead.
good. Oh, you had asked something too about weight gain, or maybe before the cancer question, about insulin, diabetes, weight gain,
Yes.
that I wanted to make sure I answered as well.
Oh, please, yes.
So when you eat carbohydrates, it triggers insulin, and then insulin tells your body to store fat. Okay. So weight gain is just a hormone imbalance. And so when you bring down your insulin levels, your body stops storing fat. And it's really that simple. So that's why it works so effectively, this ketogenic diet, for also weight gain and reversing diabetes. And yeah, so even if you're not in a state of ketosis, which means your body's producing something called a ketone, which is the byproduct of fat metabolism, even if you, which is, I would say a ketogenic diet is sort of on the extreme outer rim of a low carb diet. So if you have this spectrum of diets and this spectrum of carbohydrates that you would eat, the ketogenic diet's way on the outside edge. So most people are eating 2, 3, 4, 500 grams of carbs a day, where a ketogenic diet is around 20 to 30 grams of carbs a day, which is about a half an apple. So just to give you an idea, would be all.
So you need a coach to make that sort of. I would think that you would need a coach to direct you with that sort of thing. Is it safe for people to just go, oh, I'm just going to cut out all carbs? If
Generally it is safe. I think if you're on medications, though, you need to be really careful and work with a health practitioner or your doctor, because you will quickly have to ratchet back your dosage of medications, because it will definitely affect blood pressure medications in a good way. You want to get off those medications. So it's a good thing, but you have to pay attention. You have to check your blood sugar regularly. You have to have the tools available so that you can make sure that you're doing it safely. And there's some nuances about it. You can't really just cut out all carbs. You can, but there's also some potential side effects, you could say, of not doing it correctly. That, I mean, a lot of people are doing it themselves. If you Google search ketogenic diets, you'll find millions of people are trying it on their own. I tend to get the people that tried everything and still can't make it work. And so I've seen all the problems and all the pitfalls and all the things that block people from being successful, you could say. So if you can certainly dive in and try it on your own. And there's a lot of nuances to it. You want to make sure you have enough salt, and you want to make sure you are doing other things that prevent you from having negative side effects. So I would say in general, it's very safe because, like I said, our body is designed for it. And it's oh, you had mentioned it was about the detox question. That was what I wanted to get back to. It helps you to detox, which is sometimes what makes people feel really bad when they start doing it. So you go on the ketogenic diet, and then or you start reducing carbs, and then people say, oh, I felt terrible. And that's because, we go through this bit of a detox reaction, because toxins are stored in the fat cells. So when you start to burn body fat, you kind of stir up the toxins in your body, and they need to get out. So there's some sort of tips and tricks and strategies for helping yourself along, so you don't start to feel a little bit flu-like. We call this the keto flu. It's something that people experience, but it's definitely preventable and avoidable. And Most of the time people have a smooth transition, and it can be really easy, and it's very simple. So it's will simplify your life in the kitchen quite a bit. Um, we also use a lot of intermittent fasting. That's practices that I work with as well, which is just another way to sort of boost up the benefits again of the ketogenic diet. So yeah, it's very detoxifying. It triggers something called apoptosis or autophagy or mitophagy, which is basically like a self-eating. It literally translates into self-eating. That's what autophagy means. And it's when the cells break down and take out all the old bad sort of parts that don't work anymore, that aren't efficient, and they break them down and recycle them and build new healthy cells out of them. So it's the body's recycling process that's natural, and it kicks that on when you get into ketosis. So it's very exciting for science to have discovered this, and there's just so many people now that are reaping the benefits. So I feel like I have been talking about it for a long time, and now sort of the mainstream science has caught up with it. So it's not anymore. A lot of people are, it's become a mainstream word now, the low carb ketogenic diet. So I'm not the weirdest one on the block anymore.
I want my listeners to hone in on one thing. Mary has been doing this work for a long time. She's an expert. And what I really like, Mary, is that you're doing work with those cancer patients and those diabetes patients that were feeling like there was nothing else for them. I wasn't aware so much of I mean, I guess it makes sense. It's all coming back to me, but I hadn't gone down that line of thinking how detoxing this was for the body. That's just amazing. Thank you so much for sharing about that.
Yeah.
If there's somebody that's listening and they're maybe suffering with diabetes, or they have chronic inflammation, rheumatoid arthritis, would that be something as well, Mary?
Absolutely.
Or maybe maybe they've been handed a cancer diagnosis and they don't know where to start. I would think that they would want to lean in and get hold of you because of your expertise. Of course, like we said, they can try it on their own. Of course, it's going to be healthy, but I would want somebody that has really tried and true results and has really been at it and studied the research for a long time. So can you please let our audience know how they can lean in and get to you? Please give your website and any other information that you can.
Yeah, well, you can find me at ketogenicdietcoach.com. That is my website, Mary Beauchamp RN, ketogenicdietcoach.com. And I have some courses if you're more of a self-paced learner and you want to dive in and have a lot of content available all the time for you to sort of engage with and digest that way, or we can work one-on-one together. I have courses for a keto for cancer course and a keto for weight loss course. And basically the diabetes works into the weight loss because it's pretty much the same root problem. So yeah, that's how you can find me. And yeah, I just wanted to say that there are ways you can do it wrong, and I wouldn't want anybody to do that. And so when you stop eating carbs, you might ask yourself, well, what am I supposed to eat? Because most people eat a lot of carbs, and we've been taught, you want your rice and your potatoes and your bread and your cereal and all this stuff. And when you really think about what you would eat instead of that, it becomes a bit of a conundrum. And one of the common pitfalls is that you need to eat more healthy fats, right? So the ketogenic diet is essentially a high fat diet, and you want to make sure you eat the right kind of fats. So it's super important that you eat healthy fats. And so that, I would say, is probably one of the number one pitfalls I see. And so I don't want anybody to fall into that. Okay. So get the help. There's lots of free resources too on my website.
Oh, Mary, you're so generous and you're such a wealth of knowledge. It's so wonderful to have you on today. I just love that. So everybody, make sure to look Mary up at ketogenicdietcoach.com. She's got a lot of resources for you there. And plant an avocado tree or something, you know?
Yeah, exactly.
Get some healthy fats and get some guidance from somebody like Mary or from your doctor who can really guide you to do this safely and effectively and probably save yourself a lot of headache.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you so much for having me. I really enjoyed this talk.
Oh, it was wonderful. So thank you so much, Mary. So everybody, check the notes there for her website. Go take advantage of her wonderful resources at that website, ketogenicdietcoach.com. Okay, everybody, I'm going to wrap it up now. This is Ariel Asher. I hope that you are staying strong, staying healthy, and having a great day. So until next time, everybody, this is Ariel Asher. Happy healing.